Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today, we are reading from True Off My Chest. Our first post is by Hi Lover. My father blamed my sister for my mother's death, and now that she calls me daddy, he regrets. I, 24M, am the older brother to my little sibling, 5F. I was always the one who had to take care of my sister. For the sake of privacy, I'll call her Belle. For some background, my parents had me as teenagers. They were 15 and 16 at the time, and even as a kid I could always feel that they regretted having me. After I was born, both my mother and father were practically disowned by their family. My mother had to drop out of high school to take care of me, while my father worked 2 jobs just to provide, and even then they couldn't afford a home. They lived with my mother's older sister until I was 9, and my father got his GED and managed to get a better job and move us out. Despite the fact our living situation was better, it was clear to me that they believed their lives were ruined because of me. Whenever I misbehaved like any normal child, they'd use the fact that they gave up their lives for me, and I still had the audacity to behave like this. And even when I never misbehaved, they never treated me with much love. I barely got to get new clothing. They'd get my clothes from Goodwill and practically refused to get me anything nice unless they had to. Birthdays, parties, meeting friends, and their wedding. My birthdays were always celebrated with the bare minimum. They'd get me a cupcake and a single gift, nothing that I wanted. Despite everything, I was still a child who just wanted their love. But as I grew older, I began to accept I wouldn't get it and made peace with that. I guess somewhere along the line when my parents realized I gave up on them, as throughout my teen years they, mainly my mother, began to treat me better. But at that point, I wasn't the child who begged for their love anymore. I never received the love of my parents, and I wasn't asking for it anymore. Although I can't say I kept hating them, in fact, my feeling began to feel neutral towards them. In my eyes, we were practically strangers. I never got to know them truly, as they raised me with the bare minimum and never had any real conversations with me and never spent any quality time with me. They also knew nothing about me. So them suddenly trying to play parents with me was awkward, to say the least. When I was 18, my mother got pregnant, and I guess that was when they gave up on trying to fix things with me, as they could have a new child to start over with. They didn't treat me poorly again, but instead it felt like we were strangers living in the same home. When I turned 19, my mother gave birth to a girl, but due to some complications she didn't end up surviving. This crushed my father. Not only did he begin to resent me for not being as sad as he was over her death, she was barely a mother to me, so there wasn't much to be sad over, but he also blamed his daughter for killing his wife. He was never home after the incident, and I was left taking care of my sister. I ended up having to take a break from college after the time I came home from my classes to my sister screaming with hunger in an unchanged diaper while my father was out drinking. I took care of Belle full-time and called out my father multiple times, but he always got angry and ended the convo with him saying I could always leave Belle at the fire station. I eventually gave up on forcing him to be a father. Despite everything, I truly loved Belle. She was the sweetest and cutest kid. She was almost always smiley, and surprisingly slept through the night. Once she was old enough, I enrolled her in daycare and continued my education while working night shifts. I always made sure to leave a good portion of afternoons empty so I could spend time with her. She always knew who her actual father was, and as she grew older, she began to try and spend time with him. I guess as she began to follow him around the house. Of course, that quickly ended after he blew up on her and she began to fear him. I realized she saw me as a parental figure, despite the fact she knew I was her brother. When she was old enough for preschool, I found out she was telling people I was her father. I never mentioned it to her, and just let it be until she gave her Father's Day card she made in preschool to me. I then told her if she wanted, she could call me Dad, and since then she's been calling me Daddy. My father ended up getting a girlfriend and began to change himself as he stopped drinking, got a better job, and even began to take over on a majority of the bills other than the portion I agreed to pay to stay living here. He never really tried being a father to Belle. He did begin to eat breakfast with us, but that breakfast was spent in silence other than me and Belle talking. Fast forward to a few months ago on Belle's birthday. I had planned a party for her and invited her preschool class. My father ended up attending, as I guess his girlfriend thought it would be a good time to meet his daughter, as she was the one who looked excited to be here. Anyways, while she was opening gifts, I surprised her with one of those kids' electric cars. She screamed and hugged me, yelling how she loved me, and called me Daddy. After the party, and after Belle was fast asleep, my father asked me what the hell happened. I was confused, till he yelled asking why his daughter was calling me Daddy. I asked him if he seriously didn't know why, and told him that I was the one who raised her. I bought her everything. I celebrated her firsts. I was the one who didn't abandon her. He was quiet and went to bed. Since then he's tried to play father and talk to her, but he was a stranger to her. She was a sweet girl, so she entertained my father's conversation, but he could tell how awkward she felt, and it was clear it hurt him. Despite how selfish it is, I don't want their relationship to get better. After all, just as she saw me as her dad, I saw her as my daughter. I graduated college, and I'm looking for a better job so I can move Belle and I into our own home. I may be a bad person for enjoying my father's misery, and regret realizing he ruined his chances in having a relationship with his daughter, but I'll never be as bad as him. Our next post is by Nolan. After almost 2 years of consistent dieting and exercise as of today, I am officially 200 pounds down, from 455 to 255. I never thought I could do it. I've struggled with my weight pretty much since I was 11 years old. That's when I really started to notice I was putting on the weight. At 12 years old, I was 200 pounds, and I started high school at 260 a few years later. I ate my feelings all through high school. My home was horrible. I didn't go out and hang out. I was shy and uncomfortable in public, and so all I did was play video games and eat. I graduated high school at 364, over 10 years ago now. I put on almost 100 pounds since high school, up to the point I started this journey in late 2021. I yo-yo dieted for years, losing the same 60 to 70 pounds 3 times, but never being able to fully commit, and always gain back more than I lost. A few years ago, I had a severe panic attack at work and genuinely thought I might be dying, and decided enough was enough. I can either give in now and quit complaining and never put up a fight, or I can take back my life and take control of my destiny and shape it into what I want. I started the day after Thanksgiving 2021 and immediately cut out all caffeine and added sugars. I figured caffeine was not helping with the anxiety and blood pressure, so that's why I did that. Added sugars is obvious. Nobody needs that. Things like sodas and candies and Little Debbie's had to go. By New Year's of 2022, I was down to 429. 2022 was a bit of slow progress year, but progress was made. I hit under 400 pounds by May of 2022, and by August of 2022, I was 380s. September is when I really started to take it to the next level, as I started really upping my walking and started lifting weights as well. From September of last year to December of last year, I went from 378 to 339, walking on average close to 400,000 steps a month. At this point, this is when people started to really notice and make comments on my weight loss, especially at work. I get tired of talking about it, but I just smiled and nodded saying thanks and give a brief synopsis of what I did. I hit under 300 for the first time in my adult life March 15, 2023. That was an emotional day. The last few months I've really dug in. I got a bike that I can ride, first time riding a bike since I was a young kid, and go for 2-hour-long rides twice a week, and have been doing that for a few months now. I lift weights twice a day and still try to eat as well as I can and walk as much as I can. There's a lot more to the story and backstory, but I doubt anyone will read this much anyways, so just want to say that if you struggle with your weight, you are not alone, and that you can lose it, It just takes a little effort. Change comes when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of making the change. I still want to lose another 20 to 30 pounds and then really focus on building muscle. But after hitting this milestone, I just had to share with someone. I think it's pretty cool. Our next post is by Key Application. I cried at the gym today. I 19M started going to the gym when I was about 15 and I really enjoyed it. I got super fit and loved to work out. But at 17 I got diagnosed with leukemia and had to stop going for a while. I lost my hair, tons of muscle, and my confidence completely plummeted. I am now 19 and almost done with my treatment. About 5 months ago I decided I was well enough to get back in the gym, so I did. After about a month of being at the gym again, I met some super cool guys who kind of took me under their wing. I'll call them J, B, and R, their first initials. They give me tips, helped with my form, and are constantly trying to help me get better. Not only did these guys help me physically, they helped me mentally. They encouraged me to seek therapy for some issues I have dealt with in the past and are always checking in on me. We've all become so close. They're some of my best friends, now to today. We were all at the gym just doing our usual leg day. Then a guy I've never met shows up, I'll call him M. Turns out Jay knew this guy from high school, and they began chatting. Jay then invited this guy to come work out with us. I didn't pay much attention to the guy cause I was just focusing on my workout, but I chatted with him for a bit, and he seemed like a nice dude. Everyone finished their workout before I did, so they all went back to the locker room to grab their stuff. I was almost done, so I told them I'd be a minute, and then we could leave. Me, J, B, and R all drove together by the way, so as I'm heading into the locker room I hear them talking. At first all I heard was M. He was saying stuff about my weight and how skinny I was. Then he was going on about my hair and how I look like a sick kid from the St. Jude commercials. I was really shocked and hurt. I could literally feel any bit of confidence I had built back up being ripped down. But what happened next is what made me cry. Once M stopped talking, J, B, and R completely went off on him. I've never had someone stand up for me the way they did. M was completely taken aback and just stormed off. I'm even tearing up right now just writing this. I love those guys so much. It feels amazing to know there's people who have my back and truly care about me. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.